Hello everyone, it's the Cowboy here. Good morning. Welcome to Elliott Wave Cafe and another edition of Bitcoin and Ethereum technical analysis. It's been a couple of weeks here since we've done our last video, and Bitcoin, it's been climbing quite aggressively, and we've hit 42,000. Can you believe it? If you kind of go back kindly and watch my last video, we were at about 25, 26 almost, and I did not expect Bitcoin to kind of reach this target so quickly. But if you kind of go back and watch, we were monitoring this progress and quite aggressively thinking that we were going to get all the way up here to 42,000. Now it happened much faster, which is totally fine, but now what? Now we're at a level that I think offers a little bit of a resistance. We're going to go back and kind of take a look. But yeah, please go back and check and kind of see what my thought process was regarding this wave count. Before I go any further, I want to say thank you to all the subscribers. We have hit 1,000 subscribers as of a couple of days ago, which I'm kind of proud of. And thanks to everybody for subscribing and continuing to like this channel and share it. I think we're slowly growing, but we are growing, which is fine. And I appreciate all your comments and all your involvement. All right, so let's kind of go back and take a look at the counts. Right, we've hit 42,000. So if you can see here, we continue to look at this as being a cycle, wave 5 under this red count. I have two of them that kind of monitor the same thing with slightly different approaches on the subdivisions on here. One of them is my red and the other one is my pink count. So you can see in here wave 1 intermediate kind of ends up into these levels. Back into this count I have actually a 1, 2 and another 1, 2 starting from this is in August 17. 2020. Okay, so if you can see up here on the right, I have a cluster of fib zones at 161.8. So one of them is this third wave intermediate. So if I start my count from these lows going in a 1, 2, 1, and then I'm targeting this third wave intermediate for a standard kind of third wave advance, 161.8 is a pretty textbook target. It doesn't have to stop there, for sure, or it doesn't have to reach there, but it did, and this is where we are on this intermediate third wave. Now, if you can see kind of from this pattern, if I drop from a 4-day here, let me go to a 2-day, you can see that actually this pattern is not complete just yet. It doesn't look like it, right? You have a 1, 2, and then you have another 1, 2 in here, followed by maybe a 1 small 2 in here, 3, 4, and maybe an extended fifth to maybe complete this larger third wave minor. And then if this wave is done, this third wave, then you still got to do a fourth and a fifth to complete this third wave, which means that at a minimum we're going to have to kind of squeeze back higher above this 42K if we're doing a fourth wave pullback. Another thing that I want to kind of draw attention to, it's this 423%. So this is a fib multiple of this wave 1, starting from this wave 2 low in minor. So that's a pretty large and extended third wave. And if that's the case, and we're getting a little bit of a sell-off here in this fourth wave, then this fifth wave, it's not going to have a lot of power. Maybe it's going to go equality with wave 1, as more of a kind of a standard advance for the fifth wave, but it maybe fail depending on how deep this fourth wave, and you can even get a truncated fifth. We're staying at this 1618 before this fourth wave starts to happen. So, we have an important cluster of zones up into these levels. I think they're important. The other one that I wanted to draw attention to, and if I go back to a 4-day, it's this larger third wave that actually has the multiple into the 1618 still at these levels at about 42,000, 43,000, 42,810. So that is the multiple of this wave 1, starting from this, obviously from the wave 2 low. So this move up here, in this kind of third wave, it hits exactly the same level. So we have a confluence of fib zones that I think are important, and we'll see how the market reacts. It seems that Bitcoin is still bullish, it's still trying, and we'll see if that's going to be sustained or if the market kind of decides to take a little bit of a pause here. So let me just go back here to about a 2-day chart and kind of digest a little bit of the internals, but there is not much to count into this progression, right? It's so aggressive and so impulsive that the only way I can kind of move the biggest correction that I have into this trend, into this whole move, the biggest kind of correction is right down into the middle, right? So if I'm looking at this thing as being maybe a triangle into the fourth wave, then I can look at this as being a fifth. And you can go in a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you can find a 5-wave sequence out of here. You can consider this a 1, maybe that's a 2. This whole thing is a 3, right? That's a 4, and then you have an extended fifth that kind of finishes up into these levels. Again, it doesn't have to, but if it does, you kind of have a completed structure that you can work with. Right, so I'm watching this. We obviously broken above this channel in here, which is very nice and kind of indicative of a third wave advance. We'll see if this fourth wave happens in such a way that we're coming back and at least maybe retesting this before we kind of push back up higher. And that would be maybe a pullback to 35 initially. Even if it pulls back to 30,000, is not the end of the world for a fourth wave pullback. Right, so just kind of going back. This is kind of how we're looking. And then overall, what I do want to see in terms of more of an advancement and more of a cleaner look, and I'll take you to the pin count to see that a little bit better. What I think it's important here is that this third wave doesn't stop up into these levels. And it doesn't stop here at about 42,000 as I have it on the red. And the reason that is because, so even if that's a 1, 2, and then you have that third wave that hits into this 42,000 levels, you're not going to have enough room to correct on a fourth wave primary that's going to pull back in here, right? The moment, because this is the wave 1 top. And if this wave primary moves back lower, then look at the size of the second wave. It's so large and so big that this fourth wave, it's not going to have enough time, and it's not going to look good, for it to kind of correct up. And it would have to be almost like a larger triangle, that would have to stay above this wave 1 top, and I think it's going to look kind of ugly. And even if that's the case, we would still have to push maybe towards 63,000. Just to have a place where you would start the fourth wave decline from. Because this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the right look of the whole move. And for right now, it doesn't look like it's completed on a larger degree third wave. So under this pin count, you can see how my third wave intermediate in here, it's actually shooting up higher. If I'm starting wave 1 up from these highs and pushing it back for a second, it's actually telling me that it's supposed to go all the way up to 63,000. For a 1618. So that's another 20,000 from here, which is totally fine if the market continues to be aggressively pushing higher. Now the RSI, it's kind of high. We're in the 92 zone on the weekly charts, and it's kind of out there at some extreme limit. So I got to be cautious on that as well. It's kind of flashing some signs on there. But that would be followed by a fourth wave, and then you would push another fifth in here and maybe get all the way to about 185,000 for a larger third wave primary, right? So this would have now more of a correct look if I am looking at this whole thing as a fifth wave, right? So it's a 1, 2, and now I'm pushing this third wave primary all the way up there. Now this I can work with, and now you can have a fourth wave that can have enough room to decline and form either a triangle or a flat or maybe another zigzag, whatever. But that would be something like that would push us maybe into 2022, summer of 2023, before we embark even higher in this larger fifth wave. All right. So, there's a couple of scenarios here, but kind of all of them are pointing higher. So it's just a matter of where the corrections start and kind of how long they last. And you kind of have to, be careful. I think, most of the bulk of the move was already made. So the large kind of move, it's pretty much, I wouldn't say done, but it's towards kind of the end of it. Let's see if we can squeeze another 20,000 out of here, kind of going into the 60,000 before we correct. So, a couple of things, right? Either we start to kind of move lower, right, from here, maybe a little bit more, and then we push higher, right? Or we can go straight up to 63 and then pull back. So, it's giving me some flashing signs. So you guys be careful out there. But overall, I think the trend continues to stay to the upside, and it's going to continue to be bought. So for the rest of the year, I think we're looking at the bullish, Bitcoin into the end of the year, maybe even, in the beginning of the next year, depending on how quickly we get to this third wave top. Okay, let me take a quick look also at the MAs. So you can see in here also that last time we've talked about this, we were at about 27,000, I think, right? That move wasn't that aggressive above the 200-day moving average. And I've talked about this in my previous videos as well. Now we're at about 190%. So we're starting to, be quite elevated. Compared with the other pullbacks that we've had in history of Bitcoin when it's kind of started to pull back. So you see in here, right, you have 130% it pulled back, 127. The big one was in 2017 where you actually moved almost 300% above the 200-day moving average. Now we're at about 200. Right, so we're starting to get a little bit extended, and I think the market will look a little bit tired, or will start to get tired and push down a little bit and just kind of wait for this 200-day to catch up with it a little bit more. Also looking at the candlestick charts in here on the weekly, there is nothing, there's nothing here. Although the candles are getting a little bit larger, which means that, the bigger the volatility in here into the size of these candles, the bigger the chances of a pause and of a reversal or a corrective move. You can see how the momentum builds, right? The candles get bigger and bigger, and then you kind of exhaust yourself, and then you fall back down and you start to correct. So I'm kind of watching that. I mean, people were a little bit bearish up into these levels, but again, as I've said before, this formation was nothing but bullish, and it just clearly showed a rejection from the lows and a continuation higher. I did not expect it to be so aggressive, but there we are. And I want to show you also the yearly charts as we're on the candlestick, and these are as bullish as they can be. So you can see in here, this is 2020, and the close was right at the top. And it doesn't get any more bullish than this for a continuation higher. So this is telling you that the bulls completely control this year. And, the year 2020, mind you, obviously the sell-off in March, which was the low in there. But, closing at the highs here, I think it's an important signal and can, tell us that, even this year, towards the end of the year, Bitcoin can hit, easily $100,000. So I'm continuing to kind of monitor this as well. All right, I'll leave it at that on Bitcoin. Let's switch over to Ethereum. So let me start with Ethereum by looking at the candlestick charts here on the yearly. So you can see, I think similarly to Bitcoin, although the formation is slightly different, I think this is an extremely bullish formation. You can see how the bears try to control the market. We stopped and we reversed. So, anything that some kind of a shooting star, or it's not a shooting star. What is this called? I'm not sure exactly how this formation is. It kind of slips my mind right now, but it's almost like it's engulfing the previous, not the previous year, but the year before that. And it tells us that bulls come back into control and strongly, and I think this has the potential to move much, much higher. So at least at the minimum, the size of this candle, so if you look at it, that can push Ethereum probably up into the $4,000, if not $5,000 range by the time this year is over. So I'm really curious to see how that goes. Let's take a look also at the MAs in here. So, the distance here, it's not as aggressive as it is in Bitcoin. Let me just kind of do a quick measurement. So we are at, actually we are at about 170% here as well. And this is a one-day chart. So we're a little bit long in the tooth in Ethereum. You can see the RSI too, it's at about a 90. And, I would not be surprised if we're correcting a little bit. But let's just go ahead and take a look at the counts and see what they say. So we continue to stay bullish overall. Let me just kind of start from a 1-week chart. We're looking at the cycle wave third, which we actually haven't even finished, the first primary move of that subdivision, right? So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to complete wave 1 primary, followed by a 2 and then a continuation higher. So this move in Ethereum is basically just kind of starting, going back to a smaller time frame, 1, 2, another 1, 2 in here, followed by this 1, 2 minor, and in the middle of this larger third wave advance. So it could be that this Ethereum continues to go for the rest of the year and tries to get towards this 161%, 3712, as this move extends higher in this third of a third, right? We just want this thing to continue to push there, do a fourth and a fifth, maybe into the 2618 at about 49,000, followed by a fourth wave compared with the second, and then a continuation higher. Then you complete a larger degree first, sell off in second, and then continue to go. So these are just kind of cycles that we're watching as the years will kind of continue to move here. But you know, this is the main count and the main idea on Ethereum. And we're basically, you know, not far from the all-time highs, right? We're 1422. It's you know, it's lagging in terms of a longer time frame, and I'll go to the other software next, and I'll show you, you know, kind of what happened over the last 10 years and how much actually Ethereum it's lagging Bitcoin over the last 10 years, not over the last 5, but over the last 10 years. And you can see how you know, there is a chance here once we break to new highs for Ethereum to actually accelerate much more and maybe get you know, towards 5,000, maybe even towards $20,000 Ethereum, let's say maybe by 2022, 2023 or something. All right, so let me just come back from a 4-day and go to a 2-day chart. That's kind of how the progression looks to me. 1, 2, you know, nice impulse here in a wave 1, followed by a very short wave 2 in here, followed by another 1 and another 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now the progression here is just kind of awkward, and I must admit that I'm not, you know, super confident necessarily into placing a wave 1 here. It could be placed in here, and you can have a 1, 2, and then another 1, 2. So you can play with the subdivisions. The reason why I place it like this is because I think this is a triangle formation, and that's a, you know, kind of a leading diagonal in a wave 1. You go into a 2. Right, that's a 3, you get a 4, and then you get a small 5th, and that gives you wave 1. You pull back in a second, that's a 1, that's a small 2, you're doing a 3, a 4, and a 5. You're trying to get to this top in 3rd, followed by a 4th, and then we'll see how far this kind of 5th wave continues to push. But the idea is I would like to get towards 3,700 just to have that 161.8 multiple of that wave 1, right? So, you know, overall, we could take a little bit of a pause, watch this trend line if we're pulling back, watch some of the fibs, but I think the trend continues to move higher. You know, as a line of last defense, I'm watching this, the bottom of this kind of trending channel in here, and see if, you know, if Ethereum it's gonna, you know, get all the way back up there to some kind of a pullback. You know, that would be a very nice opportunity to kind of join the trend. Right, so that's what I have in Ethereum. Now let me take you over and show you a couple of things that I have into my Optima software, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a relative rotation between Bitcoin and Ethereum, because that's the theme of this YouTube video. And what I'm having in here is I'm having this kind of 4 quadrants, and I have an improving quadrant, I have a leading, I have a weakening, and then I have a lagging quadrant. And the benchmark, so what I'm comparing this against right here in this chart, is this US dollar index. So you can see how, and this is a 1 week relative rotation. You can see how Bitcoin is kind of leading in here, and it's in the leading quadrant, and it's Ethereum. So both of them at this time, you know, they are kind of competing with each other. Who's beating the US dollar the fastest, right? So if I kind of go back, you can see how they were moving in time, right? So if you watch the date back up in here, right, this is in October. You know, you go down, you're in August, and then you can come all the way here to the beginning of the year. So right now, you know, we're kind of lagging the dollar at the beginning of the year. When we're moving, we're starting to improve. You know, we're getting into March, right? And then, you know, we're coming back down in here. So this is kind of how they rotate against the dollar, right? And against each other at the same time. You can see kind of how they continue to beat in here. You know, we come back in October a little bit. We're kind of weakening against the dollar. I think we've had a little bit of a rally in there in the dollar, and now we're pushing back. We're turning, and so basically overall, you know, the dollar it's very weak against some of these, against at least these 2 crypto assets that I have on here. Now let me show you what's happening on Ethereum against the Bitcoin, and this is a look over, let's say, the past. If you look up here at the charts, I have 2016 all the way up to 2020. So if I go back, and now Bitcoin becomes the benchmark, and I'm looking to see how Ethereum revolves around Bitcoin. And if I kind of pull it, you'll see this is on a 1 month chart. So each of these dots that I have on here, it's a 1 month period between these 2 dots. So this tail right now, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 months of a tail in there, right? So you can see where it's been and kind of where it's going, starting from 2016, how it's lagging against Bitcoin. Then as we're moving into 2017, it's starting to improve. Then it's starting to outperform, and it's moving back into the leading. Now it's losing a little bit, but still leading. And then you're coming into 2018 in here, and you're starting to weaken. You're kind of going back. You are in the beginning of 2019. And then since 2019, I'm going to show you something interesting what happens here, right? So you're lagging. You are already in March 2019. And then Ethereum, Bitcoin continues to outperform. And we're moving slowly in here. And then we're starting to turn. And this is in August. This is in June. You're getting into July. We're starting to turn. And then we're coming back here in August. Ethereum is starting to show signs that it's trying to lead in here. And now we're shooting back up higher, right? So you can see the arrow in September. This is the beginning of September 2019 where the arrow starts to point up, which means that Ethereum is actually getting ready to outperform Bitcoin, right? So this is an important signal that if you look at the charts and then if you have this rotation graph, you can kind of start to get prepared to maybe move a little bit out of the Bitcoin into Ethereum, or maybe increase your holdings in Ethereum at that time. So you are in September 2019, and I'm going to show you what happens here, right? So Ethereum continues to gains in here. It moves higher. You are already in March 2020. The volatility decreases just a little bit. You can see by the size of the tail, and then you're moving in here in June. You're pushing up here into improving quite aggressively. And then now, Bitcoin still outperforms, but you're improving against it. And now you're basically pushing into the leading quadrant in Ethereum. So right now, at this moment, Ethereum, it's kind of leading Bitcoin. It's actually outperforming, not leading, but it's kind of outperforming. It's in the leading quadrant, right? So I'm really curious. The arrow is pointing a little bit down. So we'll see what's going to happen over the next few months. But the fact that we're in this quadrant, I think it's encouraging to continue to keep a position in Ethereum and kind of either decrease your Bitcoin or maybe increase your Ethereum positions. This is not financial advice in any means, so you guys do your own research, but this is kind of just my thoughts and what I'm kind of walking you through on here. And to kind of show you how that happens, I'll take you here to a relative comparison graph, and you can see what I've done here is I've studied the performance of Ethereum versus Bitcoin exactly since that date in 2019. You can see the date in here. It says September 2019, and the end date is as of today. So back in then, the Ethereum started to outperform quite aggressively, and since that date, Ethereum is up 618%, and Bitcoin is up 320%. So it's almost double the performance of Ethereum over this period of time. All right, so this is where we are at the moment, and I can kind of go back and play, let's say, and I'll show you what I wanted to show you over the past 10 years. So you can see that this is a performance over the past 10 years where actually Bitcoin, it's almost gained 27,000%, where Ethereum, only 9,000%. So I think Ethereum has a lot of catch up to do, and maybe, this is a signal with the move of the Ethereum in that leading quadrant. We'll see how long that would be, but it has to do a little bit of a catch up if this asset is to kind of get to the capitalization of Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form, and that's, again, it's a fundamental belief or research. I'm not that familiar, but I think Ethereum platform, it's a strong project, and it's going to gain more and more income and money flow and interest right from the institutional side. So basically, we've only increased 9,000%, and to reach kind of Bitcoin, even if you're doubling from here, right, you're supposed to go back to, let's say, 18,000%. That would take Ethereum maybe from what it is right now in 2,000 or 1,200 to 2,400, $4,000. If you go 3 times as it is right now, it will take you to that kind of $4,000 target. So this remains to be seen. The other thing I wanted to show you is this is another very simple relative comparison in here, and kind of going back to the same date. 2019, you can see how Bitcoin was outperforming. This is a relative index comparison. So Bitcoin was outperforming, was kind of climbing in here into 2019. That September date that's on here, right? And then since this happened, you can see how Ethereum, actually Bitcoin, started to decline relative to Ethereum, and we're at the not at the lowest levels ever, but we're still kind of in a downtrend. So this is just another chart that I'm watching to see, comparing, if you're thinking more that Ethereum is part of the alt class, and then Bitcoin is kind of on a class of its own. This is kind of the performance. I know a bunch of the other alts are still kind of lagging, and everybody's waiting for that alt season to come, and maybe I'll do some future videos where I talk about some of that, but there's just not enough data, and the alts are so different in their market caps that I almost would have to create an index of alts where I would kind of pull them all together and then do some kind of comparison either with Ethereum or with Bitcoin. But right now they're kind of spread all over the place, and it's really hard to, you'd almost have to do it on an individual basis. There is not like an index of alts because they have such a big difference between their market caps, right? You can go between from 2 billion to 20 million, and then you're skewing your index that way. So it doesn't really work at this moment. Maybe it just needs more time for this market to solidify. But anyway, I think this was a pretty long video. Thank you guys for watching, and again, I appreciate subscribing to the channel. Please, one more thing I wanted to show you before I go. I wanted to show you, I've opened a new channel into our Telegram room. So I have the Pro channel where I, every day we present and I do daily videos and I talk about, the stock market. I talk about the commodities markets. I talk about the alts. We talk about Bitcoin, these relationships, what happens in the market, positioning, and all these other things. I'm trying to give as much information as possible to keep my subscribers, up to date with everything that's going on, and to position ourselves, for the good trends into the market. And I've separately opened another channel. If you don't want to be part of all of those discussions and the chat room and the charts and the learning experience, you can get access to my signals in what I'm getting into and what I'm getting out to. And I kind of kept track of it since December when I've opened it. But ever since January 1st, here is some of the trades that we've taken into the XRP, the Ethereum, and we've gotten a pretty nice, positive gains if you kind of look at these and just go through them. And I present in here, I give regular updates about, where I enter, where I'm going to exit, how I kind of raise my stops and decrease risk as the trade moves into our favor, and then I kind of keep track of the performance in there as well. And you can see we've done, I think, almost a 40% gain into the Ethereum. We've got a 17% gain on XRP, on the gold trade as well. We're a little bit under the water on silver, but we've done some gains on gold, which I'm good with, and silver we haven't been stopped out. Did have a pretty big sell-off on Friday, but it hasn't reached our stops yet. And then we have, we've done a little bit of Litecoin towards the end of the move in here. We're doing some stocks lately, and I'm going to increase the exposure to stocks as well. So that's a trade into the American Airlines. Some swings and maybe some scalps on the S&P 500 via futures on there. So you can kind of all see in here, and you can take advantage of these, and you're going to be alerted anytime something like this happens. So anyway, again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share this video for so more people can see it, and come and visit us into the Pro room or in public channel if you wanted to see a little bit what's going on. You can take a trial as well for a couple of weeks and see if it fits your style and your personality. And I'm welcome to have you either way. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Bye bye.